It demands that we embrace each moment fully. For Nietzsche, the ideal response to this challenge is the amor fati, the love of fate, to affirm life completely, to say yes to all experiences, even suffering, is the highest form of strength. Eternal recurrence is not about fear, but about responsibility. If life has no external meaning beyond what we give it, then we must live that we would joyfully pursue our existence forever. Social contract theory. Social contract theory is the idea that societies are formed through an implicit agreement between individuals and their governing institutions. It suggests that people give up freedom in exchange for security, order, and the benefits of living in a structured community. Without this agreement, life would be chaotic and governed only by strict force. This idea is somewhat has been explored by thinkers like Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and John Stuart. Hobbes believes that in a state of nature, a world without or nasty, good, or to escape this anarchy, people agree to obey a weaker, more government body, even if it's that they freedom. Locke, on the other hand, argues social contract is good for natural life, liberty, is another experience of the disease that people have a right to rebel, believing that true they live under. At its core, social contract is about individual freedom and societal. How much control should a government have? What control and when, if ever, did it justify security? This is modern debate is the veil of ignorance, the thought experiment, is not wrong to determine what a truly fair society would look without knowing the person. Imagine that before you open do not know whether you will be rich or poor, male or female, healthy or disabled, part of the majority or a marginalized group. And everybody, thank you. And this is still my boy. Darling, Gina, talking, darling, Gina, darling, Gina. Hey, Katie, what you doing? Watching TV? Watching Stranger Things? I'm watching Stranger Things. There's no S after Stranger. You're watching Stranger Things on the internet? Okay. Well, it sounds weird when you say it like that, okay? Okay. Don't tell your friends I'm watching Stranger Things on the internet, okay? Please. Oh, honey, thanks for setting up the internet. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. I just had to call Spectrum on the phone and get it set up. It was pretty easy. Actually, yes, I'm going to tell everyone that we are on the spectrum. No, Mom, I'm saying no, you are most on the spectrum in this family. You let us do the spectrum. I'm telling everybody that my son is on the spectrum. Mom, don't say that. What's that myth people keep talking about online? Myth? What? I don't know. There's a lot of myths on the internet. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Yeah, belongs to someone. It's like Will Smith. Are you talking about Will Smith? Yes, and he got slapped by a Chris Rock, right? Chris Rock, not Chris Rock. It's like the thing. Yeah, thank you, sweetie. I don't know what I'd do without you. If you want anything from Chipotle, let me know. It's pronounced Chipotle, Mom. Chipotle, not Chipotle. Hey, sweetie, what you doing? Have no idea where you will land in society. You must create rules that are fair for everyone. Would you design a world where the rich have all the power and the poor suffer? There's a chance you might be born in poverty. Would you allow discrimination? You might end up in the group being discriminated against. All argue that under these conditions, rational people would choose principles of justice that ensure fairness for all. They would prioritize basic freedoms, equal opportunities, and protections for the most vulnerable, since they might end up among them. This leads to what we call a system that does not favor any particular group, but instead seeks to create equitable society. The veil of ignorance remains a powerful it forces us to step outside our personal lives for the benefit of the perspective. It is why when we use justice without economic inequality, healthcare, human rights, social justice, offering a simple, profound way to evaluate the fairness of any system. He is our problem. The is-ought problem, also known as inequality, is a philosophical challenge introduced by David Hume, questioning whether moral and prescriptive statements ought can be logically derived from factual or descriptive statements is. Hume observed that many arguments about morality and ethics attempt to derive what should be done based on observations of how things are. For example, one might argue that because humans have historically lived in hierarchical societies, they ought to continue doing so. However, Hume pointed out that there is a fundamental gap between stating a fact about the world and describing a moral rule. Just because something is a certain way does not mean it should be that way. This problem has profound implications for ethics. If you cannot logically derive moral principles from facts alone, then where do our moral obligations come from? Are they purely subjective, or do they have an independent foundation? Some philosophers argue that reason alone cannot establish moral truths, while others attempt to bridge the gap through social contract, human well-being, or religious doctrine. The is-ought problem forces us to examine our ethical reasoning carefully. It reminds us that just because something is natural or traditional does not automatically make it right. Many moral arguments require additional justification beyond simple logic. This distinction remains the cornerstone of modern debates in ethics, law, and political philosophy, urging us to think critically about whether our moral conclusions are logically justified. Hedonism. Hedonism is the philosophical belief that pleasure is the highest good and the ultimate goal of human life. It argues that what is morally right or worthwhile is determined by what brings the most pleasure and joy. Hedonism is based on the simple idea that happiness is the primary measure of a good life. The Greek philosophers like Epicurus championed a refined form of hedonism, emphasizing not just fleeting physical pleasures, but long-term well-being and tranquility. Epicurean suggests that true pleasure comes from a balanced life, free from unnecessary desires, fears. This contrasts with food or extreme hedonism, which seeks to meet the bargain. In contrast, critics argue that a purely hedonistic lifestyle can be shallow or self-destructive. pleasure is the only goal, does that mean we should avoid challenges, responsibilities, or sacrifices? Some philosophers, like Immanuel Kant, rejected hedonism entirely, arguing that morality should be based on duty and principles, not just pleasure. Others, like John Stuart Mill, define hedonism into utilitarianism, suggesting that the best actions are those that maximize happiness for the greatest number of people rather than just the individual. Hedonism remains a powerful and controversial idea. It raises questions about what makes life meaningful and whether pleasure alone is a sufficient measure of fulfillment. While hedonism encourages us to seek joy and avoid suffering, it also forces us to consider a life devoted solely to pleasure is truly a life well lived. Pascal's wager. Pascal's life is the famous argument by the mathematician and philosopher Blaise Pascal that attempts to justify belief in God not through evidence, but through a pragmatic cost-benefit analysis. Instead of asking whether God exists, Pascal asks, what do you stand to gain or lose by believing or not believing? He presents four possible outcomes. One, if God exists and you believe, you gain infinite reward, heaven. Two, if God exists and you don't believe, you suffer infinite loss, hell. Three, if God doesn't exist and you believe, you lose nothing significant. Four, if God doesn't exist and you don't gain nothing significant. This belief in God could result in infinite reward, while disbelief risks infinite punishment. Pascal argues that the rational choice is to believe, even if the probability of God's existence is uncertain. The potential gain outweighs the possible. Critics challenge this argument in several ways. One objection is the many gods problem. Pascal assumes a specific kind of God. But what if another deity rewards disbelief instead? Others argue that belief should be based on truth, not self-interest, and that pretending to believe is not genuine faith. Some question whether belief should be a choice. Can one force oneself to believe simply because it seems beneficial? Despite these criticisms, Pascal's wager remains an influential argument in philosophy of religion. It shifts the discussion from proving God's existence to considering the consequences of belief and doubt, making it a pragmatic rather than purely theological question. The cogito, I think, therefore I am. The cogito, famously stated by Rene Descartes as cogito, ergo sum, I think, therefore I am, is one of the most foundational statements in philosophy. It serves as Descartes' ultimate proof of existence and the starting point for his method of doubt. Descartes set out to find absolute certainty by questioning everything he could possibly doubt. He realized that he could be deceived by the senses, misled by dreams, or even manipulated by an evil demon, feeding him false perceptions. If everything he perceived could be an illusion, how could he know anything for sure? One thing, however, was undeniable. The very act of doubting meant there was something doing the doubting. Even if all external reality was an illusion, the experience of thinking was real. He concluded that even in the most extreme skepticism, one fact remained beyond doubt: his own existence as a thinking being. The cogito.
That is simply the accurate ticket. Well, 193.90. One night taking at the ticket, just $48.20. When you find it as well price on the same stock item, you'll beat it by 15%. Those prices just the beginning.
Again, because it establishes a foundation.
gonna eat his dogs. Let's leave it in our people. Criticize Sergio Perez because he's Mexican and not hire Lewis Hamilton because like I am 90% sure Helmut Marko is the same guy who stealing on a plane and wearing a Burger hat. And also, Grandpa himself probably has it worse because he actually looks like he's been living off of dog flesh and stolen a lot of people's joy for Formula One. And unlike his racist perceptions of Checo and possibly Yuki, this is what Helmut sees in a Formula One car. Notice how it's black because he was so fucking blind to not consider Yuki in the first place. So time to go to bed, Grandpa. Time to go to bed. Now, with all that being said, my point is, I do not care if Red Bull or Christian Horner really doesn't want Yuki in the second seat because he can't molest him like he does with all his other co-workers. Talent of Yuki's level needs to be put in a competitive car. Period. Honestly, though, get him out of Red Bull because they don't deserve Yuki at all, let alone Max. But going back to Ferrari, they are clearly being held back by a number of things, which is why I have done thorough research and created a list of the main culprits behind Ferrari fuck-ups. Culprit number one, race engineers, the ones solely responsible for your favorite Ferrari radio moments, such as saying, "We are checking," as Carlos Sainz, saying Charles would be in P1 if he stays in first place. If we can keep Logan behind P1. Wow, how insightful. And said, stop the car, and Sebastian Vettel's brakes failed. Brakes failed. Brakes failed. The water on brake pedal. Brake line exploded. He's making up for that at the moment. He's not trying to button up. In fact, I can literally unstop the car for my belief. We want to get racing with the Ferraris. Oh, Sebastian Vettel. Rocks up, goes straight through. Amazing for telling your drivers to stop the car as he's plowing through the runoff area. Again, how insightful. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I believe that Ferrari engineers are actually AI generated. Like, they might just have installed a program with ChatGPT. Hey Siri, how much is 1 Hey Siri, how much is one fourth of 1.2? Hey Siri. Hey Siri. The thing is, I think Ferrari engineers might be stupider than AI, which is why I'm now going to ask ChatGPT itself about what it thinks Ferrari engineers should have done during all of their fuck-ups. So ChatGPT, go ahead. Thank you so much, Rick. What I think Ferrari should have done was to actually hire competent race engineers that are human beings instead of AI robots manufactured in Maranello, improve their pit stop times, and not make their drivers stay out on hard while it's pouring rain. Because I am not like those dumbass fuckers on the pit lane wearing red thinking that they can see the future. Thank you, ChatGPT. It's almost like I said it myself. Now, culprit number two, race strategy. Once again, I think is AI generated. And I actually voiced this out on a recent podcast episode where I crashed out so hard over Ferrari's horrendous strategy choice in Australia. And yes, I do podcasts, but they're more like rants and meltdowns. But here's a little snippet of what I had to say about Ferrari. And I always find it so impressive how Ferrari engineers manage to give less information after saying paragraphs of words. Lewis asked his race engineer when the rain started pouring in Australia, he asked, "Is there more rain coming?" And he got a response saying negative, hopefully, let's see, it is still raining in the pit lane. That might be a worse response than just getting no response at all. Is more rain coming? Negative. This, hopefully, asleep. You're ready in the pit. I am starting to believe that Ferrari engineers are in fact manufactured an open AI power plant where they are programmed with chips that have to give out a specific response when they are being questioned, which is why we only see the words "we are checking" from a Ferrari race engineer. It's like if an AI tells you, "Hold on, we are generating you a response."
Like, does that not sound convincing enough? Thank you, Rick, from a couple weeks ago. That sounded exactly like something I would definitely say. And culprit number three, incompetent. Ferrari is the most incompetent team in Formula One. In 2019, they had a pretty questionable engine that made the SF90 a piss missile on the straight, and yet they barely won any races. They constantly send their drivers out on qualifying laps when there's a shit ton of traffic. They had Charles disqualified from the 2023 US Grand Prix for breaching regulations, and have the exact same thing happen again in China 2025. Holy gee. What is that? What the fuck is that? And let's obviously not forget the brilliant, lightning quick pit stops that they're able to pull off. This is the Ferrari when they pull on train. Look, they're not even there. There's no particular intermediate tire in sight. They came in whether that was. So, in summary, Ferrari's race engineers are AI robots programmed with Ferrari GPT. I won't be surprised if they use AI to come up with race strategies, and they also have zero competence. And all of this causes ups and downs in the Ferrari experience. Like Charles winning in Monaco just for Ferrari to get a double disqualification about a week later. It's always an up and down mess, whether it's years apart, months apart, or race weekends apart. And this has especially taken a toll on Charles Leclerc. And since I'm a professional F1 guy, I get this thorough research to uncover just how much Ferrari has affected Charles by asking a Charles Leclerc AI chatbot about what he thinks about his time at Ferrari. So, Charles, go ahead. How would you describe your philosophy?
Thank you so much, Rick. All I have to say is, please let me go from this team. I cannot take it anymore. Ferrari strategies are abysmal, and I might want to end it all.
Okay, I think he's in slight discomfort. Oh, and the Ferrari experience has also affected Ferrari fans the most, that have since turned into the most delusional people I know. Like, Ferrari fans thinking they still had a chance in 2022 was more delusional than the Germans thinking that they were going to win World War II despite Berlin getting blown to pieces from both sides. And I do understand a Ferrari fan's pain. It's dreadful. Because thinking Ferrari's going to win in the zone is like getting catfished by a chick who claims to be an actress, but the only show she's been on is 600-pound wide on Chelsea. But to make everyone feel better, let's see how Team LH is coping with the sudden Ferrari experience.
This wasn't on you. This isn't the debut you deserve, but we will be back. You'll be back next week, champ.
And we have no doubt you will finish.
Just so you guys know, these were comments made in Australia. So to everyone saying that it was going to be different next week, it indeed was, except he got fucking disqualified. But, well, at least they aren't in their suicidal phase yet. See, Ferrari fans are also some of the most artistic people I know because they've been able to paint their ceilings with their brains like Kurt Cobain. But when Ferrari fans don't get catchy, and Ferrari does have it up, it's a really good feeling. Problem is, it feels like it happens only once in a blue moon, and this is because Ferrari only performs well when their drivers do everybody else's job. I've said this in my first ever video that what a Ferrari driver needs to do to succeed is to be an engineer, driver, strategist, pit crew, pit wall, mechanic, and head of the marketing team. Now, of course, if the team is so bad, why do drivers bother to even drive for them? That is the $1 million question. Why would anyone bother to be a Ferrari driver if they're so shit? And the boring answer would be, oh, it's a very historical team, blah, 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 someone's shooting in the head. Whereas the real answer is because if they are able to persist through all the fuck-ups and become a world champion, it's going to feel like nutting 5 times at once. Being a Ferrari champ is more rewarding than being a champion in any other team in the top 5. Change my mind. Actually, it's kind of like being a champion in Red Bull's second seat while Max Verstappen exists. But to cheer up all the Ferrari fans watching this video that hopefully Ended it all. I want to talk about the F1 people I've mentioned in this video as they should never say to someone who just came out. Now, this might seem in no way related to this video, but let me cook. Starting with Friday,
爸爸，
对，
爸爸，
好，
还行啊。我学习，我刚学习了会儿。昨天应该考科学的，不对，今天应该考科学的。我学习了好晚，学习了好久，但结果今天老师把科学考试取消了，改到周4了。那个，
你找复习好了的天赋。
然后那个就是，Kings 第4个学期有一个大考试，有一个小考试。小考试是就是这个星期和下个星期就都在考小考试，然后大考试是第8个星期做 exams。对，然后对，然后就是我今天应该考那个科学的，但是没考。然后周3明天对吧，有个英语小考试，但是应该没有问题。然后周4有科学考试，然后周5有英语考试和那个计算什么来着？编程课的那个，我们坐了个车。
那你现在这段时间都在准备考试了？
对。
有没有偶尔也放松，玩玩游戏啊之类的？要劳逸结合嘛。
对啊。那我都是做一个表格，然后看几点干什么。
对，这几年这家安排的这么很欣慰啊，很开心啊，那我让我开心点了，是不是？
啊，爷爷身体怎么样啊？
爷爷还可以，你要看看他吗？还是啊？
人有个喷嚏又出来，但是没打出来。
一会儿稍微
看一下呗。他在睡觉吗？
对，那有时候我在隔壁，或是不是？对，你现在是孩子在睡觉，你关门也是睡觉，学会
让他好起来啊！
进去。
爷爷，爷爷，
这样，快去。是，
爷爷好，
先了。
谢谢。你好，希望早点康复啊！
谢谢你的祝福，宝贝。我每次都要看看爷爷。好的。你让爸爸再看一下那个电脑上面我的那个 Gmail 可以吗？
好，等一下啊。
你还是横着放的，我现在横着放了。好，我先看那个左边，看是谁。左边宝贝。好，
这是我们老师发的，这个那个 field trip。
第一封是吧？
对，就本来
你要左边，你看第左第三封是什么？
King's College。
那个妈妈都会看了，我就先别看了，我就先不看了，因为看不清楚。然后升 class 第四封需要交什么钱？升 class 是那个有一个什么费用吗？点开看看多少钱
7784。
往下。交了钱。好。college。让爸爸看一下这个 contact manager 的账单有多少？最后应该有个账单。
没有，90块。
才90块不止。有一个附件吗？
没有，
为什么会有个90块？是个什么？
网络。
为什么有个90块，后面有一个5块55呢？那是谁的？
这个比正常多交5块。
你需要有一个90块的账单吗？
没有账单，就上面 email 写着90块，没有账单。
那就再往上。那个账单不是这一封。
然后这些你都看过了。
嗯，往下开，来找一封刚才的转账日记。
这个
这里有个账单，
396.40。来了，别的你都看过了。
好的好的 ，Thank you。好，那你准备复习到什么时候
9点半吧，然后等妈妈回来。
？10睡觉啊。
嗯。
然后眼睛要自己休息一下啊。
好。
天气挺好的吧？
还行。
行。
对，然后我清理了泳池，但是下面还是有点积着那个东西，就是那个。
没关系，下次爸爸去他们互相，万一爸爸不在家，你就去。
好。
那这么定下来，你就
不，老比，头发都长出来了呀。
正常的。我本来40天。
拜拜，老比。
老比。
He's gonna eat his dog. Put Liam in RB before you keep this happen exists. But to cheer up all the Ferrari fans watching this video that hopefully haven't ended at all, I want to talk about the F1 people I've mentioned in this video as they should never say to someone who just paid him out. Now, this might seem in no way related to this video, but let me cook. Starting with "Hi gay, I'm dad" is 100% something Valtteri Bottas would say. This has been so obvious ever since I started stalking you, is what Christian Horny would say. Next, I was planning to come out to this very moment and you can stole my thunder is something Yuki Tsunoda would say about Pierre Gasly. Toto Wolff, on the other hand, is the type of guy to go, would you like to go on the record stating that our organization's diversity initiative, and I knew the second you told me you were gay is something Helmut Marko would say. Because if he can't racially profile you, he would sexually profile you. And last but not least, Max Verstappen is the type of guy to go, I'm a bitter. Now that is what I call insightful. Take that, Ferrari.
老毛，快点儿！哦，好的。
到了，我洗了，我也洗完澡了，然后你洗澡吧，然后我就准备睡觉了。OK。
Something that I've had the most extraordinary life. While college, the starting research kind of like honey. There's never one to reach the end of life and you have it. There's all the things you've done. And how to be all life. But as hard as it is, and I've had people join your concept. Is this it?
in his daily life. He spends a lot of time doing life with his wife. But there's been something I've always wanted to do. This is my opinion of I was sure this would be special. Like radically extraordinary, people by the design. That's the difference extraordinary radically. Also, between people who are not the local home base with access massive. On the road backpack and for a bit now, like 50 backpack. Morning of and so pretty. I did fish stuff. I lied. You know. This elevation gain make my lungs gas. This is not like a thing. Now we're not now. Oh my god. Instead of being a beer, because I think it's a 3.5. Now, I think it's possible for a while. I'm unsure if he's ever been to the 5. After a bit, someone broke through into the sky was unsuspicious. Something real about the sky. Fancy feet that is about for it. I felt like I was saying, I'll forget why I brought myself into the first place. So, everyone combined me all of them. 3 base camp in 5 hours. Each of the remaining 2 hours.
妈妈，我周4有个考试，周5有个考试，下周1有个考试。
是不是请父母这样好好休息，要让你的精神好，然后又运动。
我今天在那个历史课学，就是看电影，就是看那个学东西，然后都睡着了好多次，然后又醒来了。
对啊，早点睡。
我会的，我今天早点睡。
精神好。
对了，妈妈，我那个下周2和周3应该是会去，不对，周3和周4会去踢球，在学校有时候踢球。
那我说什么？
啊，家里我没有绿色的衣服，好像。我看一下。啊，那我咱去踢球的衣服。
Middle Age, Hindu civilization. In the Middle Age, Hindu civilization was forged on the European continent. Nobles and kings, faith and warfare, culture and learning, trade and these set the foundation. This is the story how Europe was born. In the first 2 centuries CE, the vast Roman Empire engulfed the Mediterranean Sea. Time of stability, prosperity, and peace. A Pax Romana. Enjoyed its flow in culture, quality of life, and relative security. Continued through Rome's centralized government and advanced infrastructure. The remote eastern margins of the empire, new religion, Christianity, beginning as a small Jewish sect, it slowly spread throughout the pagan Roman world. For centuries, was embraced by the emperor, becoming the official state religion. By then, Rome's glory days were over. The empire was suffering from inflation, plagues, famine, and meditation from a single center was becoming impossible. In 395 CE, the empire was divided into with Rome as its capital, and an eastern one ruled from Constantinople, also known as the Byzantine Empire. While the east, the west was ruled weak. It didn't last long. Each province beyond the empire, various peoples were on the move. These were mostly Germanic tribes led by warlords and their loyal band of warriors. These groups were pressing harder and harder on the Rhine and Danube rivers. Without much choice, the Western Empire began allowing them entry. Eventually, the frontier marched, enabling various peoples to
我
migrate.
刚刚给爸爸那个看了邮件，爸爸刚给我打电话，就是你们刚回来，
These peoples carved up
回来
local
两
imperial authority was plundered.
分钟之前，
476, the barbarian leader Odoacer,
他让我帮他看一下邮件，
Western Romulus
就是他的 Gmail 邮件，他没法看嘛。
had no real power. The removal stands as a milestone. The Western Roman Empire was known. The so-called Dark Ages had begun. Romans, Christians, and barbarians were the three
但是它有一些网络的费用。
Around 500 CE, Europe was covered by newly established kingdoms, ruled by
我现在
barbarians.
在听那个关于黑历史，
Between
就是
Romans and barbarians,
黑历史，
rapidly converted
是
to
那个欧洲的，就是中世纪，叫中世纪
Visigoths, Spain, and the Frankish
，Middle East，不是
kingdoms were lacking
medieval
necessary to manage successful fleets.
medieval
Some that the Roman education system decayed,
我
eroded,
的设计一个东西是看起来是
vanished, leaving no economic system to support professional armies. Literacy plummeted, slaves British positions, and most notably, peace and security were gone. This impoverished rural West is becoming more and more the first century of the age paled in comparison with its stronger neighbor. In the 6th century, Byzantine Emperor Justinian I strove to conquer the West and restore the Roman Empire to its past grandeur. But after conquering Italy from the Romanized Ottomans, the peninsula fell prey to
谁知道呢？
the Byzantines had to accept the division between East and
有
West.
可能是他去打球的时候
Soon they had to
你在家吗？
yet another division, this time between North and South. In the 7th century, Arab armies swept through the Middle East and North Africa with astonishing speed, creating an immense Islamic capital. But where one civilization once thrived, now there were three: Islamic, and medieval. For a brief moment in the 8th century, it seemed as if the fragile and weak West might be overwhelmed by the capital. Muslim armies of the Gothic kingdom in Spain
东西我吃饱了，又刷过牙了。
but in 732, in the Battle of Tours, under the leadership of Islamic expansion in the West was halted,
行了，
and the victorious Charles gave his name to a dynasty that would change European history forever. The Carolingians. This process, the Frankish throne in the fought the Lombards in Italy, granting the Pope his own most desired autonomous state. Catherine's son was the famous Charles, after ascending the Frankish throne in 768, spent decades fighting and expanding his kingdom. Ultimately, he held sway over most of Western Christendom. In 800 CE, Pope Leo anointed Charlemagne Emperor of the Romans. More than
好吃。
years,
好，
West had been
哪儿买的？
first house in the Hebrew
华人超市吗？
and enjoyed
那个是看到，那个是看到，
Renaissance
什么都试一试嘛。
to refine the lost knowledge culture of antiquity.
Empire disseminated throughout the West various political titles, ranks, ideas, and beliefs.
我跟你说了吗？
是吗？
我的那个电视，
Christian
通过了。
我还要跟
bedrock of
北岛高俊组的头，他要跟我追踪面试。
这要面试？
还有一个
the Carolingian
是一开始就要吗？
lived
是一开始就要面试吗？还是没通过才面试的？
from insect
不是，就是那个第一有人面试3轮呢，一节一节的，有人1轮就过，有人面试2轮，有人面试3轮。我现在是要求进入第2轮面试。
可以的，相信自己。
retreating
是不是英语不行而已？
divided the Frankish Empire among themselves. Middle Kingdom quickly diminished,
You can do this.
leaving only West Francia, which
来来来，帮我买提高进来。
East Francia, which will one day be
多听一些英语的读物，然后
center of Francia.
多看一些英语的东西，然后就是
现在不就是干这个手法，都
In the 9th and 10th century,
都说，
你就慢慢的就自己就形成了一个英语的理解。
the Vikings came from the north, roaming the coasts and rivers of Europe, raising and terrorizing the population. Widely known as the Bulgarians,
啊，是啊，
plundering defenseless. And finally, Muslim pirates and raiders landed on Europe's southern shore. Europe was under siege. As the West was crumbling under its people lost their power, while local Europe was getting covered with a dense network of wooden castles, serving as fortified residences of local government. Or subjugated the peasants in their vicinity, extracting their or ruled their lands by coercive force. Peasants were no part further established cavalry as a decisive force. This new kind of warfare required resources only known professional strength. In a world ruled by a by one noble wins with another return to military will becoming complex networks of personal relationships. By strong ties. This is often described as the feudal system. Agricultural use, colonization, the Vikings that settled down on the soil to royal power. Out of the kingdom of kingdoms for the first time. In this space, while political fragmentation continued, Vikings who settled in the north more loyalty to the Frankish king. They became known as the Normans. Actually, Normandy created a buffer of the Frank Otto I, king of the Germans, managed to defeat the Hungarians in the Battle of Lechko in 955, putting an end to the invasion from the east. The settled Hungarians eventually established a Christian kingdom of their own. The victorious Otto the Great was crowned emperor in 962. Europe had an empire once again, this time a German one. It was later known as the Holy Roman Empire. After centuries of turmoil, Europe was finally gaining stability and confidence, ready to change course. The year 1000 marks a turning point in European history, ushering in 300 years of growth and prosperity. Better climate, combined with new technologies and techniques, led to an agricultural revolution. Europeans produced more food, resulting in population growth. New villages and towns were established, and existing ones expanded. Throughout Europe, forests were cleared as more and more land came under cultivation. This enabled immense economic expansion and commercial revival. Bustling trade networks fed a massive urbanization. Old and new cities grew larger, becoming international hubs for a new class of merchants. These merchants won their independence from feudal landowners, forming self-governing cities. This was most evident in Italy, where merchants revived the Mediterranean trade. As quality of life improved, art, architecture, and music flourished. Europe was becoming increasingly middle, and the first universities were founded under the auspices of the Church. European intellectuals initiated a new renaissance based on the rediscovery and revival of ancient knowledge. But Europeans were not only conquering internal frontiers, they were also pushing outward. During the Central Middle Ages, aristocrats from the Carolingian heartland conquered and colonized new territories, pushing the boundaries of Western Christendom. This process, described as the Europeanization of Europe, resulted in an expanded and more homogeneous civilization. In 1066, William the Conqueror, Duke of Normandy, invaded England. At the Battle of Hastings, he delivered a decisive blow to the Anglo-Saxons. England was transformed into a Norman stronghold. In Iberia, the Christian kingdoms of the north fought the Muslims to their south, gradually extending their control over the peninsula. This was viewed as a reconquest. In southern Italy and Sicily, Norman warriors conquered vast territories from the Byzantines and Muslims, allied with the Pope, and established another Norman kingdom. In Eastern Europe, German aristocrats and peasants gradually moved eastward, settling in Slavic lands. But Europeans were casting their gaze further